When I was 14, I planned my wedding.
This one's wife. Bossy glitch or drugs. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As you are probably aware, this one's wife made an appearance at a bookstore just recently. Yes, this titan of philanthropy, who could have stayed with the royal family doing meaningful work and appearing at prestigious events, is now turning up at the opening of posh bookshops. Just another indicator of how far this individual has fallen from where she managed to manipulate herself to in the first place. Notwithstanding the apparently esteemed clientele, the fact is that she has been reduced to going along to neighbours' bookstores, fraternising with a very small social group, which seems to these days consist of Ellen DeGeneres, and then naturally grabbing the mic. I've covered elsewhere her appearance and also the arse-licking coverage that took place in Town and Country. Naturally, as you are aware, this one's wife's attendance was driven by her narcissism in the pursuit of the prime aims. She wanted to assert control over the non-intimate secondary sources and non-intimate tertiary sources that were in attendance, i.e., friends, acquaintances, and strangers. She does not think in terms of control, but that's what's going on. She draws fuel from them by way of response, and that's why it was important for her to be able to grab hold of a microphone. Why on earth you would need a microphone in a bookstore didn't look that large to me, but there we are. Perhaps it feels reassuring to her because it's dick-shaped. But nevertheless, it was necessary for her to issue some word salad and a revision of history with her idiotic, I sought the safety of a bookstore. This just demonstrates what an empty vessel that she is, unable to talk about literature, unable to talk about books and the publishing industry. All she can do is talk about herself and recall either a revision of history in relation to being in New York and attending a bookstore, but this time telling us she went there for safety, which makes no sense at all, but it would do in her twisted world, or it never happened in the first place, and her narcissism has caused her to invent yet another instance, telling a porky pie, which she naturally believes because her narcissism makes her believe that it's true. Thus, the audience was subjected to this dire word salad and beigeness once again. This shows just how clearly she is unable to talk about anything with any degree of insight or to be interesting, and how the only thing she can really talk about is herself or spout meaningless word salad using words like equity, authenticity, and organic. One of the interesting things that arose from this, while she was regaling a no doubt near catatonic audience with her observations about finding safety in a bookstore, so remember, valuable viewers, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel at threat, where you're being attacked, don't bother calling the police, just leg it down to Barnes & Noble or Waterstones and everything will be all right. It's the new panic room, don't you know? But what was interesting is that there is a short piece of video footage which provides us with an opportunity to analyse what's going on, to look at this in terms of, is it overwhelmingly her narcissism or is something else thrown into the mix? Now, don't lose sight of the fact that because she's interacting with an audience, her narcissism is in play. It always is. It's driving her behaviours. That is the engine of what she does. But what occurs in this short piece of video footage may simply be her narcissism, or there might be another influencing factor which is linked to her narcissism. Let's have a look at the footage and then we'll analyse it. Here it comes.
The safety of what I was craving, I knew I could find in a bookstore. I get the book, go get the book, go get the book. The safety of what I was craving, I knew I could find in a bookstore. I get the book, go get the book, go get the book. The safety of what I was craving, I knew I could find in a bookstore. I get the book, go get the book, go get the book.
There you have it. The segment is when this one's wife is talking about the safety of what I was craving, I knew I could find in a bookstore. And then it has been slowed down and you get a close-up so you can see what's going on. So what do we see here? Well, first of all, we have the revision of history, as I earlier explained when she talks about the safety of what I was craving, I knew I could find in a bookstore. So in that particular moment, her narcissism is driving her to utilize a manipulation, the revision of history, on the audience. So far, so in tandem with her narcissism. She then requires a book to be brought forward. And here is evidence of how her facade management is nowhere near as good as it ought to be. Because she explains, go get the book. She doesn't ask, would you? There's no please. She issues an instruction. And that demonstrates how in that moment her facade management in effect was caught napping, and the haughtiness of which this one's wife functions by came to the fore. Go get the book. And she points. She still thinks that she's at Kensington Palace bossing people around. She thinks she's at the Monteshitshow mansion ordering the staff about. The facade management's asleep, and we get that momentary appearance in relation to demonstrating bossiness, which is a manifestation of the haughtiness of the narcissist. So we see another facet of her narcissism in action and another failure of her facade management. What then follows is rather bizarre. She makes a strange set of hand movements, and then, like the reptile that some might say she is, her tongue makes an appearance. What's all that about? Well, there are two distinct possibilities. Remember, the narcissism is functioning and operating. We've seen it with the revision of history, then in the next moment, the haughtiness, where she issues an order, and then what we witness thereafter could be a glitch, in the sense that her facade management wakes up and realizes, oops, she's just been a bit bossy, we need to rescue the situation. But it actually doesn't catch up quick enough. And like a malfunctioning robot, this one's wife gesticulates in this weird fashion and sticks her tongue out. I've mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating. If you've ever seen the original Total Recall, you may remember one part where Arnold Schwarzenegger's character utilizes a headpiece to make it look like that he's a woman. But unfortunately, the software for this glitches so that the wig lifts up and then the face starts moving around. And it seems like the woman's suffering a stroke at first until you realize that the software, the robotic machinery, is glitching. This happens to narcissists because, remember, the narcissist doesn't have a natural reaction based upon emotional empathy. It's learned responses. Some narcissists are very good indeed at this, and you have to look very, very carefully to see where there might be a microsecond delay before the narcissist responds. In other instances, you can spot the delay because you have what's known as the 404 moment. See my video of that name. In other instances, the response is incongruous to the circumstances. For instance, somebody hurts themselves and the narcissist laughs. That's because, as per the Imitation Game, please also watch that video, the cherry picker has gone off to the warehouse and has come back with the wrong response. With this one's wife, having it made a bossy observation, the narcissism recognizes, oops, that slipped through, we need to salvage the situation. But before it can do so, it simply doesn't know what to do. And therefore, this one's wife doesn't know what to do. Hence, you get this weird gesticulation with her hands, which starts off as her pointing in the direction to do something, but then follows up as if she's working as a bookmaker at a racing track. And then she sticks her tongue out. It's an inappropriate reaction and an inappropriate behaviour when talking to an audience, and does appear to be some kind of glitch. However, there might be an alternative explanation that is layered on top of her narcissism in action. So, we get the revision of history, we get the haughtiness where the facade management has slipped, and before she can then move on to the next thing, something else influences her behaviour, which is to move her hand in a strange way and stick her tongue out. The suggestion might be that she's been imbibing something of a recreational pharmaceutical. Now, there's no actual evidence of her snorting a line in the bogs at said bookshop. There's no evidence that she hoovered up a poodle's leg off the back of a copy of Spare. But the reaction is one which might be seen with somebody who has been imbibing as a consequence of a dry mouth, and also the fact that because the response to imbibing is one that they can't necessarily control. In the circumstances, if that is what she has done, that also links to her narcissism because of the arrogance and lack of accountability of turning up at a place where she knew she was going to say a few words under the influence. Furthermore, she's engaging in a criminal act, if the speculation is accurate, which again shows a sense of entitlement, a lack of emotional empathy for the audience. I emphasise, there's no actual evidence that anybody's seen her doing this, but the reaction is one that can be seen in certain drug users. Accordingly, you might be witnessing a glitch as a consequence of the narcissism misfiring, or it's the effect of being under the influence. What do you think? Once again, it's a short piece of footage, but it provides us with an excellent opportunity to see various facets of her narcissism in action, the entire purpose of this channel. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think you're witnessing a glitch as a consequence of the follow-up from the haughty behaviour? Or do you think it's a reaction to her being under the influence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.